Hi, my name is Cameron Beckett. I'm here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I teach ninth grade business communications at East Village Junior High. Now, I did mention I teach business communications. Essentially, what that means is I teach student courses, oral communications, and entrepreneurship in the fall and in the spring. And so they kind of blended those two together and just called me the business communications teacher. Now, I would love to have given this presentation in my classroom, but it just so happens I'm a floating teacher this year. I guess that's kind of the downside of being a first-year student or a first-year teacher is that you're the rookie of the group, and they kind of put you jumping around the different classrooms, which has been totally fine and a good way to start my teaching career. Just a little bit about me and kind of where I've come from. I'm actually a proud Texan, though my wife and I love living in Little Rock, Arkansas now. I've lived as far south as Corpus Christi, spent the majority of my childhood in Houston, made my way to Waco at Baylor University for my undergraduate program, where I actually majored in business, and then took that business degree north to Dallas, where I worked for two different software companies, one that served the oil and gas industry, and then the other for higher education, where I kind of got my start in my career. My wife was in medical school in Dallas, and then she ultimately got matched at Arkansas Children's Hospital in Little Rock. So that's what brought us here to Arkansas. And again, we love living here. And though we are proud Texans, we don't have any intention on leaving the state. Speaking of my wife and my family, here they are, all four of us. My wife and I there on the left. We don't have any children yet, but we have two dogs. Ralph is the chocolate lab, and then Judge is the mutt there on the left. They definitely keep us busy enough for now, but those are kind of the loves of my life and the center of my world. So, as I mentioned, I actually started my career in business, and I'm incredibly thankful for that foundation of where I got started. But I've actually always felt very, very called to the classroom. In fact, I was an education major for my first year at Baylor, but got swayed away into doing business. But working with kids has always been on my heart. And finally, my wife and I hit a point where I was able to kind of make that transition into the MAT program to get that started. Again, I'm a firm believer that we have to be the change that we want to see in the world and really preparing tomorrow's leaders. And what better way to do that than teaching in the classroom and really establishing their foundation as they push off into their futures. And then finally, just kind of on a fun note, I am ultimately interested in coaching cross country and track. I'm a bit of a runner, and so that's something down the road, but also a big key part of why I made this transition from business into teaching. Here in the future, right now, I plan on kind of settling into the classroom, getting my master's under my belt, and then spending some years kind of refining my pedagogy and really learning the art of teaching. Again, would eventually like to coach. That's secondary. I really want to get this under my belt first. And then ultimately down the road, I would like to step into an administrative role if that opportunity presents itself. That'd be really great using my business background and tie that into teaching to jump into being either assistant principal or principal would be a very great opportunity for me. As far as the expectations for the MAT program, though I'm incredibly excited for the course content, I think it's going to be very helpful. What I'm most looking forward to is just general mentorship in my first year. In the first year of teaching, I've already experienced 5 weeks of ups and downs and learning points and frustrations, but excitement. And so having a mentor to kind of help me and guide me through this first year is what I'm looking for. And whether that be through a professor or some other student, I'm really excited to kind of make those connections and learn from others on how to be the most effective teacher I can be. And then finally, just outside of teaching, my biggest entries are tied around endurance sports, and so I'm a big marathon runner, and so I just completed the Boston Marathon back in April, and I've run a handful, a variety of other marathons, half marathons, races across the state and across the country. And then starting in October, I guess I'm already training for it, but in October, I'm jumping into the world of triathlon. And so doing my first half Ironman triathlon, going back to Waco where Baylor is, and getting the opportunity to do that race there at the end of October. And so that's what I'm going to be training for here in the short term. But I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my presentation. Looking forward to the class, and I'm really excited to get started, kind of jumping mostly into the MAT program so I can be the best possible teacher I can be. Thanks.